WoofDen.
Good afternoon, evening, maybe even morning, depending on where you're watching from. I'm the WoofDriver. You're live in the WoofDen. We have a special treat for you tonight. In case you don't know, the WoofDen is our studio where we do our podcast. This is our third or fourth podcast. And when I say we, I'm going to introduce you to Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew Hager. I'm Bill's co-host. This is my guide dog, Sammy. You can probably see parts of him down on the floor. And we have a special guest for you tonight. We have a local Baltimore musician, one of my guitar heroes. It's Tony Bonta. Hi, Tony. Welcome.
Hey, thanks.
So, we wanted to start bringing guests into the WoofDen and sort of exploring different aspects of the WoofDriver's interest here. And so, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, Tony's going to be playing tonight the WooFAxx. And the WooFAxx, it sounds a little crazier than it is, but it's actually a guitar to honor dogs, wolves, etc. And it was custom built for me, the WoofDriver, and for all the musicians that grace the WoofDriver's lifestyle, more or less. So we've done a lot of music that I've written. I'm not a musician, but I've written a lot of lyrics about my life with my Husky pack and all my Husky packs. All my dogs I've had. I've been doing this for about 25 years. So you occasionally on the page see some of my adventures where I travel pretty much all over the East Coast of the United States, more focused in the Mid-Atlantic region. And you usually see me, you'll see some of my bikes in here. You might get glimpses of it, like Andrew sitting in front of one of our electric motorcycles. And the dogs actually free range with that. When they free range, they actually run free. They're off leash. A lot of times when you'll see on our adventures, we're either on a farm or they might be tethered to one of these, what I call dog-powered go-karts. And the dog-powered go-karts are actually bikes where the dogs tether to them on the side. Traditionally, we all think of mushing, we think of dogs out in front, but the dogs are on the side here, so that makes it more manageable for almost any dog to do, like my dog Princess that's 15 years old. And we also sometimes do a little dog that I have, a Chinese Crested. Almost any dog can do it. And it's kind of to promote people with high energy dogs, to let them know there's other ways of exercising, like putting them on a safe kind of attachment like the one I use for almost any style bike. It doesn't have to be a big bike where I'm taking pretty much a mini sled dog team. So that's what I do. A lot of the music, I've written lyrics to tell about that, and there's even some training incorporated. This is all Husky centric, and you're probably watching on one of the Facebook pages. That's my page about Huskies. So that's the kind of dogs I have, except for our little one, our Chinese Crested. And a lot of the music's about that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tony. You're going to hear us talking tonight. Tony, this is the first time Tony and I have met, so he's going to ask me some questions maybe. He's a biker too, likes driving a bicycle, and besides being a very talented musician. So he's going to play some music, we're going to talk some bikes, some dogs. Again, Andrew has Sammy here, who is his guide dog. And if any of you are interested in any of the subjects I mentioned, please feel free to ask questions, or if you just want to shout out our producers here, Trisha. You can't see her, but she is here, and she will be filling us in with any questions you may have. So, Tony, I turn it over to you.
Hey.
Well, welcome, Tony. We're glad you're here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
I know you have a dog. Bill has Huskies. I have a black lab who's my guide dog. Tell us about your dog.
So I have a kind of a mix of a Border Collie and a Australian Shepherd. And it is kind of a herding dog, and we have to kind of get it out every day. Unfortunately, we don't have the really great bicycle the different devices that I see all around here, which I would just love to hop on one of these.
Thank you.
Your wife takes the dog jogging, right?
We do take it jogging, but it's getting a little bit older. When we first got it, it was the primary intent was to have a companion for Ellen and JJ to just go jogging through the reservoir. We live right on the edge of the reservoir, and they always go out and they'll do 3-5 miles, whatever, a day, and the dog would just eat that up and just very quick, nimble, good running dog. But as he's gotten older and older, it's more and more difficult for him to keep up. And if anything, we almost need like a battery cart for the dog to keep up with Ellen and JJ. But he still enjoys it.
Now, is the dog? Those kind of dogs can be protective. Like, is the dog protective if some animal were to like accost your wife on the trail or something like that?
Well, it's an interesting thing that you bring that up. Yes, he is protective. There's often joggers. He's not a very. There's something that triggers him about guys with beards and hats.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
It's
certain dogs, yeah.
There's going to be
don't be around your wife with my look.
Right. So if you run across something like that, usually we have to make sure that he's on or she's on a leash and make sure that she doesn't go nuts. But there's also critters out in the woods. We had a kind of a locally famous incident now where my dog ran kind of too close to a raccoon, and my wife wanted to try to intervene, didn't want the dog too close to the raccoon, even though my dog is vaccinated with rabies shots and Ellen is not. So Ellen tries to intervene, and the dog or the raccoon kind of looked up and looked at the dog and looked at her and just chomped on her leg and just started attacking her. And so Ellen fought it off and couldn't get the thing off. She had to literally pull the dog or the raccoon off of her leg and throw it. And then it came running back at her.
Wow!
So she had quite a tussle with the raccoon. I guess that was about 3-4 years ago at this point, and we ended up having to go into the emergency room and get some rabies shots. And,
are they painful as they say? I mean, do they give you as many shots?
She said the first. She had to get a series of like 6 each time she was in. So there were 2. I think one kind of in the fleshy part of her backside that was pretty painful, she said, and somewhere else. But in general, the second day it wasn't so bad. And
how many days? Do you remember how many days of shots you had to get?
2 days.
2 days.
So it was precarious because it was on the eve of a huge storm. We knew that there was something was going to drop a foot or more of snow on us.
Wow.
And we were worried that like the day of, we were at the hospital, but the next day, were we going to be able to get to the hospital? We didn't really have any big 4-wheel vehicles to get us there, and we had to line that up just in case, because you have to get one set of shots. You have to follow it up within so many hours, and if you don't,
you could get it, I guess.
Right. And there's not really much of a recovery rate from rabies. I mean, you just get rabies and you're dead. So. We had all that lined up, but we were able to get out to the hospital the following day, and everything was fine. But it was quite the experience. And the weird thing was when she got attacked.
Hey folks, WoofDriver once again. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. So
yeah. So I guess like you were in the middle of the story, and we were talking about your wife had to go for a second series of boosters because if you get the rabies vaccine or you get attacked by an animal like this, there's a first series of shots, and then you have to go back within so many hours to get the next series. And you said that this was all happening like right before a big blizzard?
Right before a big storm, and we had to line up some 4-wheel support in case it really did come down and we were dealing with 2 or 3 feet of snow, and make sure that we could get to the hospital the next day. But everything worked out. We were okay. She got her second series of shots. Everything was fine. We don't know. Really, if the raccoon was rabid, or they sometimes
they never caught it, right?
Yeah, they never caught it. They get distemper. They can exhibit aggressive behavior. So you're not sure, but we had to be safe and get that done. And it was kind of interesting when she did finally get away from the raccoon and further up the trail, and she felt she was safe enough. She called me to like check in and get ready for the trip to wherever we were going. She actually wanted to go to like a clinic. She was hoping that we could just go to a patient first care kind of place and just do a sort of a lightweight trip and make it quick. And I got all that checked out, in like 10-15 minutes. Pretty apparent that we were going to have to go to the emergency room. But after that, I'm just waiting for her to come, and I didn't have to go rescue her. She was walking fine. I think she was, she's physically okay. It was just a couple of bites on her leg. So I just posted about it online. I guess it was Facebook, and I posted video of the Beatles' Rocky Raccoon, and, and that actually upset a lot of people. That I was like,
really?
Because at that point she hadn't been to the emergency room yet. She was just attacked. And I'm fooling around online, so it didn't play too well for
The optics aren't good on that.
No, it was not a good Tony moment. But
that's pretty well.
She can laugh at it now, right?
We can laugh at it now, and we have it's been sort of a recurring theme. We had her 50th birthday party, and that was the theme. Everybody came with some sort of Rocky Raccoon or Rocket Raccoon attire or shirt. There were a couple of guys with the plush toy, raccoons attached to their legs. So that was.
So what you did wasn't so bad. They didn't let her live it down.
Right.
Did your dog do anything was he there during the?
So he actually got scared and he was backing off. And the bottom line is the dog is vaccinated. They're protected against that. And I've seen a couple of incidents since then. I bike through the reservoir all the time. And I see like a raccoon that will come up onto some people that I don't know, but they're kind of looking at it and their dog is there. And I make sure to tell them, you're not vaccinated, but your dog is. Stay back, So I've seen that 2 or 3 times, and you don't need to protect your dog usually. I mean, most of the dogs are vaccinated.
I've had they need to be vaccinated. I've had actually my current dogs come into contact with raccoons on a couple of occasions where they've actually gotten into a fight, and I've been able to call the dogs off, but the raccoons can put a hurting on dogs. I mean, some of them are big, and my one dog, my one dog bit pretty good on her lip, and the vet said it was borderline whether she needed stitches. We opted not to because that was his recommendation. But when that happens, usually it's pretty strange because when my first time I'd ever have a raccoon encounter, got a hold of the raccoon, killed the raccoon, called the DNR because it's the right thing to do, and then they told me you might have to quarantine the dog, we need to get it a booster shot right away. So I got it a booster shot even though I was vaccinated.
Okay.
And I didn't quite understand the booster shot scenario, and the veterinarian at the time explained to me that they just if you didn't have it vaccinated, they could take it from you immediately. Now that I obviously have proof that it's vaccinated, they want a booster shot. It's supposed to just mitigate any chance that if it, penetrated the first rabies shot, it wouldn't get the second one. I guess that's the figuring. So they did it today. So I come into contact with some of these wild animals. We're out roaming in the woods and in the wilds. And a couple times I got them booster shots because they came into contact with some possible rabid animals. We don't know, but they were definitely a raccoon, there was a possum, etc. And lately they've advised me don't get the booster shots because now, maybe back then they weren't doing them, they're doing 3-year rabies shots now. 3-year rabies shots. According to the one veterinarian I talked to, he said they're foolproof. You don't need to do another booster shot, and you're just going to over-vaccinate the dog. Okay. So for me, I'm a guy out there that really has a good chance of coming into contact because we're roaming all over. This is when I run the dogs off leash, and lately there hasn't been any encounters. But I do find now raccoons are out during the winter, but animals that hibernate like groundhogs, when they first come out of hibernation, when I'm out there, they're like a deer in the headlights. They're they don't have all their senses in order. Yeah. So the dogs are more likely to catch them then on a midsummer day when they've already been out of hibernation for a while and their senses are working at full strength. It seems like they avoid us more. But in the early spring, when they start coming out of hibernation, that's when it's a little just a little more cautious. But raccoons, again, they don't hibernate, so they're out all year.
Right. It's kind of interesting related to that. I went over to India a couple of years back on business, and I got a bunch of shots for the various illnesses that you can encounter over there. And after about your 8th or 9th needle, you're done. They're asking you, do you want the chickamauga virus shot, or do you want this shot? And no. And the last one they offered me was the rabies.
Really?
Vaccination. Yeah, it was it's a big needle. It was the last one. I'm thinking my wife just got vaccinated. I don't need this.
Now, is that a vaccination that she got, or did she get is that the same thing you were going to get? Do you think?
I wouldn't have got all 6 shots. I have a feeling that it was a variant of that. I don't know for sure, but I could have gotten that needle, and I chose not to. And then while I was over there, I discovered that unfortunately, the most prevalent form of death in India is rabies, because
Really?
there's all of these
Whoa.
wild dogs over there.
Really?
And you're just constantly encountering. And I was at one point I was on a campus at like 2:00 in the morning, awaiting my ride back to a hotel, and there was a pack of like 9 or 10 dogs that surrounded me.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they show aggressive behavior?
No, they didn't. I was just like, at that point, I was, a little conscious of the fact that I didn't have a rabies shot, and it was a.
Now you were thinking about it. You're like,
I was like,
rabies.
what am I doing? Unfortunately, some security guys from the campus came over and got rid of the dogs. But it's a big deal in some of the other countries with a lot of dogs roaming around. So
I often wondered why we don't give humans rabies shots here. I don't know if I'd get one because it's not as prevalent here. But
right.
of course, they have them for animals, but they don't have them for humans. And I think I don't know if it's still true. Great Britain, England, whatever, is the only country without rabies ever reported, or without rabies in the country. I don't know if that's still
That I
true.
don't know.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So they're really strict when you bring an animal there, is my understanding, about quarantine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to introduce it to the country. I mean,
That's why I didn't take my dog when I went to Europe. I'd just gotten my guide dog 6 months earlier, but it was, I don't know what the quarantine process is like, and theoretically I think they're supposed to allow the guide dogs through without a hassle, but you never know. I mean, and I was only going to be in Europe for 3 weeks, so if he gets quarantined for 2 of them, what's the point? Plus, that's a long flight to have a dog on. Like, you can't pee for 9 hours. Don't.
it is.
Don't
you
do
know.
it.
Yeah.
But why don't we, why don't we have some music, Tony? We got a musician here and we're talking.
Yeah.
We should have him play something.
No. So I guess I've got this really cool WooFAxx guitar that Bill was describing. Unfortunately, we're missing the batteries, but I'm told that these eyes light up, which would be really cool.
The eyes do light up, yes. And if you were, when we got cut off before, we had some technical difficulties. I explained that the WooFAxx is built specifically for the WoofDriver, for all the music that I engage in. Again, I'm not a musician, but I've written a lot of songs about what I do, adventuring with the dogs, training, etc. And Tony's kind enough to come here and play it, to do some cool stuff with it. So you can go to my YouTube channel and go to Woof Tunes, also YouTube, or on the website, and you can see had some good musicians grace the WooFAxx in the past. So it's gonna be fun tonight. We're looking forward to it.
Cool, yeah. But so this is kind of an interesting guitar. It's like a semi-hollow body. I think it's got like a block through the center here of the guitar, and then it's sort of hollow where the ears, which are kind of cool. The ears, you can see the hollow nature of the outside of the guitar, which is kind of similar to like a Gibson 335 kind of guitar, but then it's just got these cool eyes in the shape of a husky or a wolf, and it's got the paws on the fret markers here. Really, really interesting, neat little guitar. We've got 2 of them too.
Yeah, we do.
Another one down here.
We didn't choose the second one.
There's about 6 of them in circulation. And again, if you didn't hear us, the eyes do light up if we had the battery, but we forgot the battery.
We're not that high tech.
Does it? Let me ask you. Does it blink, or does it like react to?
It reacts to
Like
what you're doing. Yes,
Oh, man,
yes.
cool.
Yeah, so if we had the battery, we could demonstrate.
Wow.
Trish, do you know how we're sounding? Do you have any idea? Can you?
Go check.
I just want to check the levels just before we start. We're going to get Trish. We're going to do a real quick sound check, folks, so we can make sure we get the maximum enjoyment here.
You're seeing all this live, so this is the behind-the-scenes stuff that the podcast people won't get.
Yes, this will be a podcast also, but that's the nice thing about Facebook. You can get the visual with it as well.
Yeah, it's but it is it's a really neat guitar. I like this. It's got like some sort of signature, I guess.
Yes, we actually were naming each guitar for different dogs.
Oh, really?
Some my dogs.
So
yes.
is that that's the signature of, that's not the dog?
That's the signature. Yes.
Can we turn Tony up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm gonna move the mic. I'm gonna move this a little bit.
Okay, do you need me to move?
Just the instrument? No, he's good right there. Oh, sorry, Sammy got scared. He's
I
okay.
bet you that's good, but I'll let you know.
Lie down. So Tony's voice is good. It's just Bill, you had mentioned that you have written some songs, but we didn't actually get any of those to Tony. So Tony will be playing other people's songs, not necessarily WoofDriver songs.
Yes, exactly.
And to be honest, I haven't played too much electric guitar lately. I've been playing a lot
Most
of
of
acoustic stuff. I'm primarily a banjo player. At this point, I play with a number of bands around Baltimore and go to a lot of jams. And somehow we got to figure out how to get like some acoustic instruments on this guy and
Yes.
go out for a ride.
He's pointing to, which you can't see now, but in the past, and you can look this up, it's called In the Wolf House series, where my dogs have actually been on one of the dog-powered go-karts. They're actually not truly dog-powered. We call them that, though. They run on the side, as I've explained. And we have a special bike here, which I'll try to give you a peek of before we end the show, where the dogs have ridden or have been running along with it as we've had a musician in the back seat playing different instruments. We've had a violin, or a fiddle, actually. A fiddle and guitarist, some vocalists. We've had some in the front, some in the back. It's been a pretty interesting dynamic, and kind of like in the Wolf House, we call it, kind of like in the coffee shop, whatever. So some neat stuff. Of course, we don't have any power for electric instruments on
Right,
there.
so that's why it'd be great for. But also, do you guys know the difference between a violin and a fiddle?
I do not.
I don't either.
There is none. It's just
Really?
what.
Okay, so
But it's just like something like that. I get asked that all the time. Well, what's the difference? Like a violin have like a different string or a different tuning? And no, it's just that like usually in folk and bluegrass music, you're gonna call it a fiddle. And if you're playing classical or baroque or something, you're probably gonna call it.
So it's more to do with the style of music you're playing on the violin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you're usually if you're a trained musician and you're playing orchestral stuff, it's probably going to be referred to as a violin.
interesting.
Just FYI.
Cool. Okay, with that, Trish, are we good? Do you know? Okay, we're good. Tony, take it away.
So I don't really think much about what I should play here. But when I pick this up, I kind of feel it like it's got sort of an REM feel to it with the way it's coming out of my amp too. And I
love REM.
Yeah, we really haven't done much with the settings here. We just kind of plugged it in. It sounds pretty good out of the box, so I'll just leave it like this. Cool. But I think we'll try to do Radio Free Europe, which I kind of know. I don't know the words. I don't even think Michael Stipe knows the words.
The lead singer of REM, right?
Yeah. But like, it's got some weird words that never. It was just always him mumbling. So I'll probably mumble through a lot of this too. But we'll try to. Sign yourself and Rio's gonna stay. Push that, But you get the idea of like what this thing sounds like. It sounds pretty good, I think.
Definitely. I like it.
Pretty good Michael Stipe impression too.
Hey, what is that?
Gets a little
I
fuzzy.
lowered
the volume.
back.
Yeah.
I lowered
Was
the
it
volume.
when I was shouting, or is it?
When it's all together, yeah.
All right.
It's
I lowered the volume, the output, so
Okay.
hopefully.
We're working on this, guys. It's all a work in progress. We've never had a musician on the podcast before.
Oh yeah. Tommy Two Top.
That's right.
Danny, who can I turn to? Give me something I can hold on to. I know you think I'm like the others before. Who saw your name and number on the wall? Danny, I got your number. I need to make you mine. Danny, don't change that number. 866
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's the WooFAxx.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's Tony.
Yeah.
And
So again, I don't usually, I haven't played much electric guitar these past couple of years. A lot of banjo, but this is fun to play. This is cool.
And we're gonna have you play some more songs as we keep going through.
Okay. All right.
We want to kind of get to some of the other. I mean, you can tell us about your musical background. Like you play the banjo now. How did you get into that? How did you get into music?
Well, I mean, I was just a kid growing up in the late 70s, early 80s that loved Van Halen and AC/DC and all the heavy metal and eventually some funk stuff with, I got into Fishbone and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I used to play in a lot of loud progressive funk bands. And then my dad had seen a lot of bluegrass in his day. He grew up near Princeton, and the bluegrass bands, Flat and Scruggs and other bands, would come to Carnegie Hall and up near Jersey, and he just loved the bluegrass stuff. And when I was growing up, he'd always see banjos for sale at flea markets or antique stores, and you should try that because I'm already playing guitar and other instruments, and he just thought I would pick up banjo pretty well, and I just had no interest in playing that sort of music. So I always brushed him off, and he would always keep bringing it up. We'd be anywhere, and he'd see a banjo. We should get it's $200. You can't go wrong. I don't want a banjo. So finally, he just bought me one for Christmas. It was like I was in my 40s, and he got me a banjo for Christmas, and it sounded horrible. And just to humor him, I sent it. I got it fixed up, so it sounded half decent, and I picked up a tune on YouTube, like the Saints Go Marching In, and I learned how to play it, and I got hooked. I just I couldn't put it down. I just started playing. It's I love this. How did I not start this 40 years ago? Just like coconut in the head, and so yeah, I've just hook, line, and sinker. I've got a bunch of banjos now, and I play in a bunch of bands around town, and I just I know more. I didn't know anything about the Grateful Dead and Bob Dylan until I picked up a banjo and an acoustic guitar, and now I've just I got a whole different perspective on the music that I listen to. So it's all good. I like anything. I listen to a lot of hip hop with Andrew. I like the old metal and funk bands. Love the Chili Peppers, and I love a lot of the acoustic music. There's a lot of great bands on the East Coast and around here that I love. Listen to Bela Fleck and the Punch Brothers and Frank Sullivan and Dirty Kitchen, and there's just a lot of great acoustic music that I get into too. But music is all good. It's just what types of instruments are playing it and the style. But it's just all music is great. Love it.
Yeah, what I've been impressed with you, because I've known you for a few years now, and we've sort of at my instigation, you've put together bands that have played, you've been playing the banjo while doing Ice Cube, or, you did the banjo. You did a really awesome version of some Foo Fighters songs a couple of years ago with some guys, Nick and Luke, who are a local traveling band. I just love the versatility of the banjo in ways that you would never think, okay, It Was a Good Day with a banjo would sound like anything, but
there he didn't have an AK with him, did he?
No, he did. It was a good day.
It was a good day. I didn't have my AK.
It was a good day.
But yeah, there's a lot. When I first started playing bluegrass, there is sort of a traditional element in people that think it has to sound a certain way and has to, have certain types of lyrics. But I think more and more that's sort of dissipating a little bit. I think with the advent of Mumford & Sons and even some of the the hardcore bands that you hear out of Boston with banjos, people aren't as set in what an acoustic band has to sound like. So there's all sorts of things. I just think we're on the cusp. One of these days there is going to be a not in the not too distant future there's going to be a sort of a progressive band that's going to write catchy pop hooks, but it's going to be all acoustic, and it's going to be funkier than Mumford & Sons, and it's just going to take the music scene by storm. I'm not sure who that will be or what's going to happen, but it's going to happen, and there's a lot of people that are doing really neat things with acoustic instruments. It's also easy to play. Like I said, you get your acoustic instrument, you can get it on the back of a bike like this. You can take it out into a field, open up your case and play. You don't have to lug huge amplifiers and and plug things in. So acoustic instruments are just great, and they're just available to everybody. It's a lot easier for somebody to pick up a guitar or a mandolin and a banjo and just play that, as opposed to getting a drum set and a PA system together to jam with the electric stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
sure.
It's just easier to do, and I just think more accessible for folks.
Well, it's fun for parties. I mean, it's like the kind of thing you can just take with you, and you create a party wherever you go. And it kind of bums me out. Like, my kids are in elementary school and they're taking instruments, and my daughter's playing the viola, which is great, and she sounds great, and I know the teachers are doing a great job, but I just wish, like, you could take guitar at elementary school level or something, because to me that's like the kind of thing
you can still take guitar classes a lot earlier than I did. Like, I don't think, maybe there was something offered my senior year and there were some classes in college, but these days it's rampant in middle and high school. There are all sorts of guitar clubs and guitar classes and things that you can take, and there are some options. One of the guys I play with in a band called the Porch Setters, Sean Hemming, is sort of a stringed instructor at Bishop Curley down in Anne Arundel County, and he has a guitar orchestra that travels, with these high school kids, and they're doing all these like different parts, and he does some really cool stuff, and kids are they're more exposed to guitar, but it's almost like it's when I was growing up, I had no interest in playing banjo. It's the same thing with kids these days. It's almost like it's an older instrument nowadays. Playing the guitar, it's not as people just aren't as into it. Even with Guitar Hero, when my kids were younger, it was really hard to spark their interest with.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just not as popular as that.
So what are kids into then? They want to
hip-hop.
They want to mix stuff
it's reflective in the music that you listen to. It used to be in the 80s and 90s, really the 70s and 80s, half the guitars or half of the songs that you'd be listening to on the radio would have a guitar solo. Mm-hmm. And the other half might have sax solos or something.
Yeah, I was going to say saxophone.
Everything has a hip hop solo. Everybody's spinning some sort of rap. Katy Perry would have a song, and then some.
Snoop Dogg shows up.
We'll do something, but that's what you do. Those are the solos. Are these, and they're clever. And I'm not knocking. I love a lot of these solos, but the guitar is really taking a back seat to what it was doing but before the 2000s.
Yeah, it seems like rock with guitar is almost like exclusively alternative or independent music now, and even a lot of that is more, like Vampire Weekend isn't like a guitar heavy band to me, like there are, more keyboards and things like that going on.
Yeah.
But, you're right. Like when I was a kid in middle school was like grunge, like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, like all these heavy guitars and crunchy sounds, and, that kind of, in the last decade or so, or maybe the last 2 decades, that's really been on the wane.
Right. And again, there's a lot of really cool new popular music, I think, that's coming out, and you can do a lot of amazing things with computers and all sorts of ways that you can produce. I mean, the big thing nowadays, I think it's kind of interesting that the big musicians that are selling lots of things these days are really producers. I forgot.
Kanye West.
Kanye West. There's just Martin. What are some of their names?
There's Mark Ronson.
I know. Mark Ronson is an example. He's really more of an instrumentalist.
DJ Khaled, I think.
DJ Khaled's a good example. But a lot of these guys will make just incredible tunes that are largely crafted, with mixing and sequencing software. They're just doing really interesting thing to sound waves, and they might record a lot of guitars, but then they'll shape the waves and put digitally produced effects onto the instruments.
Really?
And it's just like it's cool. It's different. And some people, might have a preference for like a lot more of the live acoustic instruments, but it's just a different flavor, and it's all good. And I wish I could do some of that live with a guitar. I just can't,
Yeah, sure.
You're not Tom Morello.
Right. Well, actually, he's brilliant. Like, he can make some weird sounds with his guitar. But I just different flavors of music at different times, and a lot of it right now is driven by computers and hip hop. So
you're in a band called Porch Setters Union.
Yeah.
And it's not a hip hop band.
No.
Not a hip hop collective.
No. It was kind of funny. Like we did have a gig one time where we one of many bands at the Maryland Science Center Halloween, the annual Halloween bash down there. And they were going with themes. Every one of the bands had to have sort of a theme. You had to be running Beatles songs, or you had to be doing all of your songs for the Eagles, and they wanted us to do Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they wanted our band, the Porch Setters, to be, like doing some of the hip hop things that the Red Hot Chili Peppers do, but like we couldn't. That wasn't happening. That wasn't in our catalog, so we ended up being like a Rolling Stones cover band for that night. But
Okay.
But you can. I mean, that's the cool thing. You and I have played with this, and we've done other things. But yeah, Porch Setters. I've been playing with those guys for a couple of years. We just put out our second album, just released a couple of weeks ago, called Union. And the Porch Setters are largely driven by a guy named Andy Belt, a good friend of mine who does a lot of he writes a lot of great lyrics and puts together really straightforward, folky country, alt country kind of tunes, and we have bluegrass instrumentation, so we've got a banjo and a mandolin and a dobro player, and then we've got a couple of guitar players and a bass, and it just kind of works, and it kind of works. It really works.
Yeah, I mean, your Union's available on iTunes. I just want to throw that out there.
It's available on CD Baby and iTunes for sale now, and we've got a bunch of CDs. I might have some in my bag that I could give you guys before we go. But it's got a lot of good songs on there. We occasionally get some play on TMD, and so we're
TMD is the local Baltimore
alternative Towson station.
Towson station.
Yeah.
We're, in case you don't know, I know a lot of my people that come to my pages may not know this. We're out of Baltimore, Maryland. So we're using a lot of Baltimore lingo here, talking about Towson and Severna Park, Howard County, the surrounding areas. So it's all a stone's throw away, as we say, from where we're at. And where I travel with the dogs, just to put it all into perspective, I travel like the mid-Atlantic part of the East Coast. So I usually go as far north as almost New York, and then as far south as almost North Carolina. We ventured further. We've gone up to the Cape Cod Rail Trail, and that's in Massachusetts, and that was an overnight trip. We went to the Erie Canal, which is in New York, and we've gone points southwest as far as almost Tennessee.
Wow.
I believe it was the Virginia Creeper Trail we were at. So just giving you the lay of the land when we're talking about Baltimore and everything. That's where we're at right now. This would be classified as Baltimore.
But I got to cut back to you now. I got to start asking questions about this, because Bill, the WoofDriver, has obviously a lot of familiarity with all these trails around here, and Andrew and I have done a little bit of biking on some of the local trails, kind of more close to the Baltimore center that we call home here. But what do you think is probably your favorite trail or trails that you've encountered from Cape Cod down to Tennessee?
One of my favorites, because it's so diversified, is really the C&O, which is relatively close to us. You can reach parts of it within an hour and a half from travel from Baltimore. And we've done the whole trail. The trail is 184.5 miles long. So it goes from Georgetown, Washington, D.C. to Cumberland, Maryland. And the whole trail is roughly a crushed gravel surface. There's some overgrown grassy areas, but it's still pretty well packed. There are parts of it. One of the most actually majestic parts of it, to me, is a pretty well kept secret called Big Slackwater. And Big Slackwater was an area. It's probably from Baltimore 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. It was an area that was washed out during one of these storms, I think back in the 90s maybe, a fairly long time ago, relatively speaking, and it laid dormant for a while. That area, the trail, was closed. What they did was they got a fund together. I don't know if it was $1 million or $5 million. It was pretty expensive and pretty extensive what they did. They built, it reminds me, and you'd have to look it up on the internet for the exact terminology, almost like a cantilevered bridge that goes on for almost a mile along the Potomac River, and your cliffs are on one side, and I don't know where the canal plays a part because the C&O was built as a canal back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, with the Potomac River on one side, the canal on the other, and they diverted water here and there to make it work. And I don't know, I've always been inquisitive and I never checked where the canal goes along that path, but that Big Slackwater is like so quiet and so peaceful. It's a really calm part of the Potomac. Potomac's not really roaring in too many places, but we've seen some fair movement when you get down towards the Shenandoah River, where it meets the Shenandoah. There's a lot of, I would call it rapids in there. People do kayaking. That's a little treacherous in the water. But this is a really calm part, and again, it's called Big Slackwater, and it's incredible. You think you're in another world. You're like, wow. Is this Hawaii or something? So
it's north of like Harper's Ferry.
It's north of Harper's Ferry. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I could probably look it up quickly. I forget what mile marker it's at. So if you start in Washington, D.C., it's mile marker 1. Right. Harper's Ferry, I'm going to say, is like something like 40 or something. I can't remember.
Sounds about right.
Don't quote me on it. But this is probably more like 75. I could be wrong, though.
Okay.
Just guesstimating.
I'll check it out. I've done a lot of the from like Shepherdstown south into DC.
Yes.
I've done most of that.
It's north of that for sure.
But I got to check that out. And then I've done. Have you done the Great Allegheny Passage up to Pittsburgh?
Yes, we went to Pittsburgh. Yeah, of course we've done this. We usually go and do them in anywhere from 15 to 30 mile clips because the dogs are only going to hang out for so long. Technically speaking, if conditions were really ideal for the dogs, running in Arctic temperatures, the coldest of winter, we do get Arctic temperatures in this region. It doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally through some winters we get some really cold spells, and they call them Arctic fronts, Arctic cold fronts, whatever. But those, when you get it cold enough, you could run those dogs up to 100 miles if they were conditioned right.
Wow.
They say they can do over 100 miles. And the reason being, a lot of people question me about this. Like, isn't that cruel what you do with the dogs? And you don't know how much hate mail I get about it. But the truth of the matter is, and I don't want to digress too much here, but the dogs actually, from how I understand it, they actually, their metabolism, they can actually control it. Of course, they don't say to themselves, I'm going to control it this way. It's instinctual. It happens, the natural function of the body. But they don't burn their fat and like a human. Like a human burns the fat for energy stores. They use it as energy stores. Dogs don't do that. They can turn it on and off as they want. So that enables them to, and I don't know how it works, to travel really over 100 miles a day if they're conditioned properly.
Wow. And
people don't understand, especially the Husky, what kind of energy it has. And it's becoming one of the most abandoned breeds right now because of the Game of Thrones. And I'm not sure the characters in there, but apparently there's a dog or Wolfie.
There's a direwolf. In the first episode, they all get direwolves, which are, and so I think people are getting Huskies because of that, and then they don't realize how much energy.
They don't realize what it takes to do a Husky, and that's really how I got started, because my first Husky, I had no clue. And I realized he needs to run, and I got to figure something out, because I'm not a real runner anyway, and I couldn't keep up with the Husky. But what I did was, this is how I got started, I found an attachment for the bicycle that could safely, not holding a leash where you could kill yourself or the dog, you can safely put them on there. It's actually the one I use has a release in case you were split, you ran into a tree or a post or something, the dog could come off of it and safely get away from you. I don't need that kind of, precautionary measures at this point, but it's good for beginning riders sometimes. But I put my dog on a bike, I took him a mile, and he was happy, and I'm like, wow, that was easy. Instead of all day him pulling me on the leash and working with him, trying to find out, what do you want to do, throwing him a ball, it never tires us yet. But of course that mile turned into 2 miles, 3 miles. I mean, they build up pretty quick, and they need to go. But if you can't do the mileage, you can certainly crank the speed up and get them running a little quicker, so to burn up some of the energy. But that's the the beginning of the wolf.
So I've also seen a couple of times. Which trail was it? It's probably the NCR trail around here, but the guys, I think they've got some sort of it looks like a scooter, but it's a kind of a trike sort of thing where they've got a handlebar and then they've got like wheels in the back, but
Are they standing?
They're standing,
yeah.
And then they have dogs that are pulling them.
Oh, okay. Because there's a bunch of different kinds. I haven't seen that one in particular, but there's a bunch of different kind of rigs that people make for dogs to pull. And I know what you're talking about, the basics of it, but I haven't seen that particular one. I have seen almost like, what do you call this?
Elliptical?
Elliptical that is actually powered to go on a trail that you're moving your arms and your legs and you move down the trail that moves the wheels.
I have seen that.
Yes.
But not with a dog.
But I thought about almost every vehicle out there. I thought about how can I attach my dog because I want to try new things and I want to give the dog a different experience and I want to see as I get older what I'll be able to do to keep up with the dog.
Well, you have some sort of scooter, right? Because I
do.
think I've seen some of your Facebook Live videos where you've been riding around your neighborhood on a little scooter.
Exactly. Scootering with the dog is not really WoofDriver invented, but the kind of scooter I use. Usually with a scooter, it's not powered. It's just strictly kick power. So you're on the ground pushing with it and the dog's pulling you. But again, I like to run different dogs, different ages, different sizes, whatever. So I use electric on most of my vehicles, and I found a scooter that's actually 3 wheels. So it's 1 in the front and 2 in the back. It's not very wide. It's pretty narrow. And I have it in the corner there. I can't show it on camera now. But we rigged it up so the dogs can safely attach to it. And I run 4 dogs on it. Kind of look like a little kid maybe going down the road. And my neighbors are like, what is he doing? And it's wonderful to train a dog to not be scared when we're trying to get them trained for a bicycle or moving next to a wheel. And it's also good when I'm just stuck in the neighborhood, whether it's weather conditions or my schedule. I can throw them on the scooter. I can do a 5-mile loop. I'm lucky I have enough side streets where I can take the dogs on a 5-mile loop and get some quick energy out of them. But it is fun, the scooter.
A lot of Bill's hate mail comes from his neighbors, actually. It's,
yeah, they're incognito. They don't let me know that. Pretty funny stuff. I love one of the trails, but the C&O is just.
So that's it. I have to check. I have not been in that area, so I got to check that out.
I didn't know it was there. I mean, we went there and like
slack water,
big slack water. I'm like, where are we?
All right.
It does still get washed out. The areas before that actual big slack water, I don't think can get washed out anymore because they elevated it. The river's below it, but the areas before it and after it, sometimes a lot of rain last year got washed out, and it made it off limits for some of the summer. I'm friends with C&O, I like them on Facebook, which is a good place to find out what part of the trails may be closed or bad weather or whatever.
I have to look into that. But yeah, we're always looking for. I've also got a one of these interesting bikes, not in the kind of the realm that we're looking at in this room, but I have a tandem recumbent bike that I really, really enjoy. It's probably my favorite material possession, I tell Andrew.
That's cool.
It's just like, I just love the thing. And Andrew and I go for rides on that all the time. So
I've seen him post pictures.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun, and we're just looking for places to go, and we should try to hit that sometime.
And I gotta say, as a blind guy, this is like great for me because I know there's that guy online who like does the clicks and he listens and he rides a bike while he's blind and. I'm not doing that. But I used to really like riding a bike as a kid, and so like it's cool to actually be able to get out there and do that. And a lot of these rail trail kind of things are along the canal path because everything's relatively flat. They can only have like a 1% grade or something like that. It makes it easier to do. It's not like I have to go out and like do all these crazy hills on the recumbent tandem. That wouldn't be ideal to have.
Right.
A lot of hills.
We live right on the reservoir called Loch Raven in northern Baltimore County here, and we do occasionally take family trips out around the reservoir and closed off parts of the road, and I take the tandem sometimes, and it is kind of a bear to do the larger hills, and it's
you need a little motor.
You do.
You can put these motors today because I know it from doing my bikes. Because almost every one of my bikes has an electric motor on it. It assists the dogs and helps us if we're going up big hills because there's no way the dogs are going to be able to pull all the weight, and we don't ask that of them. But if you're on level ground, as Andrew was saying, a lot of these rail trails are level ground.
Yeah.
And you get it going, it starts rolling. But if you do take a hill, these motors are relatively inexpensive, and they climb. I mean, some of these motors will go 40 miles per hour, and we're not talking a lot of money. They will. We've had the bikes without the dogs on it,
right,
just to test them out to see what their capabilities are. Amazing.
Wow.
That sounds
looking at that. We did we were up in what was it? Not Montreal. city further north in Canada.
Quebec?
Quebec, thanks. We did a kind of a tour of the city on electric bikes. You know, it was just kind of
That's awesome.
interesting. It was like the whole family, and you're still pedaling around, so you feel like you're getting some exercise. But like some of the steeper hills, which are all over the place in Quebec. I mean, it's a city on a hill. You just got a little assistance, and it just makes it like pleasurable.
Yes, just so people understand. So with an electric bike, if you don't know, you can actually set it so it assists you how much percentage you want it to assist you pedal revolution. So if you pedal one time, you can have it assist you 25% or 200%. And it can, you don't even hear the motor barely. You don't even know how much, because I'm trying to figure out how much is this assisting me. It's pretty cool stuff. And I love doing that. But we do on my bikes have throttles where you can just do that and take your foot off the pedal if you really want to. A lot of times people will see me sitting up. I might look kind of funny, and I'm pretty flexible, so I cross my legs sometimes because we're in a bike car, one of these dog power go-karts. We could be 5-6 hours in there. Of course, we get off, we water the dogs, we walk around, we check the area out, but it's a lot of work, really.
Yeah, no.
Fun, a labor of love.
Yeah. But that does look. Electric bikes, you know, just give you just like a little extra comfort to make things where passages would normally be difficult, just make them more passable. You know, just like it's a good thing.
You know, it was funny when I went out with you, Bill. There was a large group, so there were 3 different bikes, and you know, I was in the bike with you and the dogs at first, and then I was in another bike with Jim, who's one of the guys that goes out with you, and you know, like we were doing mostly pedaling. Then I got back with Curtis, who was the ghost hunter that you go out with. And Curtis was like, I don't pedal. And we like, it was just like all motor. And then like 100 yards before like we get to the parking lot where we're going to be done, like the battery just died. And Curtis was like, damn it. You know, like all of a sudden we had to pedal.
Curtis has been with me before when the batteries died, so yeah. The technology's getting a little better. We can read the batteries now. We know when they're spent.
Yeah, but so what's your favorite trail, Tony, of the ones you've done?
I probably have to say like the northern part of that. Like I really like the Great Allegheny Passage. From like Cumberland up to Pittsburgh. We
like through Ohio Pile and all that area.
Yeah. I mean, like from where you're from. I thought Ohio Pile was just gorgeous.
Are you from there?
I'm from Western Pennsylvania. So like we used to go, like when I was a kid, my church youth group would go. We'd get bikes and we'd ride from Confluence to Ohio Pile and back on that Great Allegheny Passage, and I just didn't think anything of it. And when
that's some of the most scenic parts of the
gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
it's gorgeous.
When you grow up there and you like see that all the time, you're just like, whatever. You know?
I just think it's kind of cool because when you're doing those parts of the trail, there's bridges where you're 70 feet up in the air, where you're going through a small tunnel, you know, and you can see mountains of like. The topography is so different.
It's amazing.
Every 10 miles, it's just great.
The CNO as you get north, it's like that too.
Yeah, so I got to check that out. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just, you know, you're like you were like right in the middle of like some of the coolest parts of that trail. I guess you just.
Yeah, I didn't know, and like now when I go to Ohio Pile, I mean, you know, I can appreciate it more and be like, oh God, this really is beautiful. Like you see all these rapids, they're waterfalls and all kinds of things there. Like one of my favorite things there is Cucumber Falls. You can kind of hop across the rocks of the river and go underneath the waterfall, kind of like behind it. So the water is falling in front of you and you're looking through it out into the river.
Really?
And it's just gorgeous. No,
Where's that at?
It's in Ohio Pile, Pennsylvania.
I've been to Ohio Pile.
Yeah, and it's called Cucumber Falls. It's like absolutely beautiful. Great place to take a girlfriend. It worked out, with my current wife. I used to take her there. But it's, I don't know that I would do it now because, like, me blind trying to hop across the rocks with, like, my guide dog, like, I'm going to get a concussion and we're going to, I'm going to drown in the river or something. But, it's gorgeous. Ohio Pile is gorgeous, and the stuff around there, like Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water is right there. So if you're really into architecture, God, that's a beautiful place.
What's the really big bridge? Because we did some drone footage of me with the dogs, and I actually just republished
the one just
video.
south of Myersdale. You mean the aqueduct? It's what do they call it?
It's an old railroad bridge, but they resurfaced it or something.
Yeah, so it goes for almost like 3/4 of a mile or something. Yeah. It's just south of Myersdale, PA. So
I check it out if people haven't seen that on YouTube or want to. It's on the WoofDriver Legend of the WoofDriver page. It was incredible how we got it filmed. We just had the right day, and Chris was flying the.
Yeah, they've got like
flies the drone.
The beautiful crops underneath, like
Yes,
that
yes.
just make for texture. You know?
Oh, it's incredible!
Wow.
It's incredible.
And then like just I want to say like 20 miles south of that, there's a big tunnel. What's that?
The brush tunnel.
Is it the brush tunnel? I don't know. It's like
the brush tunnel's the big tunnel there. That's near the Continental Divide.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
It's called brush tunnel. Okay,
yes.
so that's like 3/4 of a mile, and you're like in the dark, and they have lights.
Yeah,
You're in the middle of the day,
yeah,
so
they have lights right in
yeah,
there.
that's a really neat. I mean, you don't get much of that when you're biking around here. There's like a tunnel north on the NCR trail, right?
Fort Howard
York.
Tunnel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's like really small. You know, this is like 3/4 of a mile. You get in there, you can't see the end.
Oh,
It's
it's
dark.
incredible.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. But there's just like a lot of interesting sites. So I guess north of Harper's Ferry, I gotta check out more of that.
But you've seen some of the best scenery if you've done Gap Trail, the Great Allegheny Passage. And did you go through Pittsburgh actually? Did you get to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it was and that was another neat thing. Like I'm a big Baltimore sports guy. I love the teams here, and our Antichrist is the
Steelers
Pittsburgh team, whether it's the football team or
Pirates,
like
the
the Penguins against the Caps. You know, so
in '79 the Pirates beat the Orioles.
Yes,
in 7
thanks
games.
for reminding me.
I was there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there.
71 and 79. But
Yes.
I wasn't born yet, but I'm glad that's the last time the Pirates did anything really of note. So
do it against the Orioles. But anyway, so we go to Pittsburgh to get we took a shuttle up to Pittsburgh and stayed at a hotel there, and then took a day, 2 or 3 days to get down to Cumberland. But in Pittsburgh, I noticed that you have to kind of bike through the streets to get to the
Three
main-
Rivers to the state. We made it
to the point
just
point
close,
they are.
but we didn't make it right there. It was too.
But there's just like it's not really laid out that well until you're like 7-10 miles out of town.
Right.
Where you're just like so. I was asking a Pittsburgh bike group. Anybody got some recommendations about how I could avoid riding through a lot of the heavier streets in Pittsburgh to get from the trail, the first marker there at the fountains in
Right.
Three Rivers.
That's where the first marker is. Right?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't quite make it there. We didn't want to take a chance. We're with the dogs, but we were there at like 3 a.m. And
Wow.
Chris was egging us on. Come on, let's go. Because he'll give us an escort in the truck. But I mean, there's so much. Even at 3 a.m, there was traffic,
Yeah.
and if he loses us,
Yeah.
we're
and
dead beat.
they're constantly working on it. But
They
like
are.
there were so many people. I said like I'm here with like 15 bikers from Maryland. Like, can anybody give some tips? We ended up getting an escort, and it was like 2 guys that
Did
were
you
arguing
really?
about
Wow.
it. They were like, I'll take you from here to here, and I was like, look, it was a Friday or something we started. It was a weekday, and they're like, no, I'd enjoy it. I need to get out in the morning, and so we had a guy basically escort us from the top of the trail, like 15 miles down till it was
Wow.
like really well marked, and we didn't. And the neat thing was we saw. One side of the river, and there's really trails on both sides at that point. So we went up from our hotel. We went up about 5 miles to the fountain, and then we met the guy on the other side of the river, so he could show us some other sites that we might not have seen if we were trying to figure out where to go on the I guess the eastern side of the Yakagani there. So. Or it's the Monongahela there. So, but he gave us a personal guided tour. I mean, he was the nicest guy, and like everybody on the thread was really nice. And even when I was finished, I complimented like a Facebook group about how nice all the Pittsburgh riders were, and I was so surprised because I've been so anti-sports Pittsburgh. And the mayor, Bill Peduto or whatever his name, he's like, thanks for riding through Pittsburgh or something.
Wow.
I didn't want to admit I was from Baltimore when we were on there. Like, you guys from? Not far from here.
I wonder if the mayor of Baltimore would compliment someone on riding through the city.
I don't know. They probably give you like a healthy Holly rides Baltimore.
What time of
Yeah,
day?
they'd sell you
It was
one.
daylight, I guess, when you were at the top part. When you were.
Yeah, I mean we left pretty early. Like it must have been 7 or 8 in the morning.
When we go near city trails, we try to actually go in the nighttime so it's less crowded. So we
Makes
wound
sense.
up in Pittsburgh because we're with the dogs and we're
Right.
going to be wide.
Right.
So we were getting towards Pittsburgh, and it was 1 a.m. or something. and we got near, it might be the only steel plant operating now. The big flame was going in the real industrial section. It's really cool how the trail kind of wraps around. You get a good visual on it. At least we did then because of the fire in the sky that it was creating, but it was awesome. And then I remember a amusement park, like a roller coaster, came right up to the side. Of course, it was closed down. It wasn't quite spring yet, and it was just really
I bet that's Kennywood. It's
Kennywood?
Probably Kennywood, because I remember that being along train tracks when I was a kid. No, I hadn't been to Kennywood in 20 years, but...
Is that Kenny Rogers?
No, not Kenny Rogers. It's not like Dollywood.
You're making me hungry now. Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Kennywood, they had all these great wooden roller coasters.
It was a wooden roller
the
coaster,
Thunderbolt and the Racer, just really old time stuff. And that's where all of us went when we were kids. That was our amusement park.
I mean, there definitely seemed to be like a lot of interesting things we did in the middle of the day, so we weren't blown away by any of the. I'm sure if you're seeing flames and stuff.
Oh, it was wild. It's a big thing. You hear all the forklifts, the moving the steel, whatever they're doing, and you're like, wow, that's cool. But you're far enough away from it, you're not in danger at all.
But that's still, I just love the fact that you're able to bike in the middle of a huge city.
Yeah.
And you've got you can see everything, and you can see some of the industrial aspects of the town, and you can also.
It was one of my favorite parts of the trail. Really.
Yeah, really cool. And then 20 miles down the road, you're in the middle of rapids in the Youghiogheny, and
we saw a bear back there on the Great Allegheny Pass. It's more towards Ohio Pile, but we're always looking for wild animals, and the dogs usually give us the first sign that something's there. And one of my dogs, Chase, was going crazy, and I said to Rhett was my co-pilot, because remember, these bikes are a tandem, so I'm always have someone with me for safety. I got dogs, I got unfamiliar places, so check out, look in the woods, something's there. And he's like, bear, and I gotta get a picture. I'm like, we gotta, so get a picture. So and Rhett's an outdoorsman, so he's like, okay. So we stop real quick. Dogs are going crazy. Dogs are tethered to the bike. They're safe. He runs in the woods a little bit, and he's like, I got it, go! And I didn't know. I thought he was in the bike, and he's like, go! The bear wasn't coming after us, but for whatever reason, I started taking off, and he's like, whoa! And I'm like, I thought you said go. He said, yeah, I forgot it wasn't quite in it yet. He's behind me. If Fred's listening now, I'm sure he's getting a good laugh. Nobody got hurt, of course, but it was really an incredible scene. Yeah, so you see bear back there. I mean,
that's great. That's great. Yeah, but it is really kind of. It's interesting when you go from the city to the Youghiogheny.
Yeah.
It's just so drastic.
In 20 miles, like you were saying.
Yeah. It's really cool. Really cool.
We haven't mentioned everybody out there. If you have any questions, comments, again, I might have said it before. I can't remember now. Shout outs, whatever. Please put it in. Our producer, Tricia, will try to let us know, and we'll try to address them. And of course, if we don't get to them here on the show tonight, we'll go back and answer questions and comments.
Yeah, on one of our future podcasts. Why don't we have Tony? This seems like a good place to put another song, since you're you're doing this, doing a little bit of a break there.
Sure.
Whatever you want to do, Tony.
Well, I figured since I'm in the WoofDen, I should do something dog inspired, and I was trying to think do we know any dog inspired tunes? And the first thing that sort of came to our mind was the Elvis tune, Hound Dog. So I guess we can try that. I don't really know the words to this either, but unfortunately it's not Michael Stipe, doing Hound Dog lyrics. So let's fake our way through this.
Mumble
it. We'll mumble it.
Jumble.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, rockin' all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, rockin' all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. You said you was high class, well that was just a lie. You said you was high class, well that was just a lie. You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. So that's about as.
Do you want to shake your pelvis for the viewers at home?
Do that. Yeah.
You can throw a sweat-covered towel at Trisha.
That's one of the things I miss about playing guitar, because compared to not a lot of people know that, but when I play banjo is so freaking heavy, and compared to these guitars, this is just a popsicle stick. I could I can move. And I remember when I used to play guitar in bands and I used to move around a lot. Now when I play banjo, I'm just like a stump on a log in the middle of the stage. So you don't move around that much.
You don't see a lot of banjo players jumping off the amp,
You don't do that. There's a reason for that.
That reminded me playing that song on one of the Wolf House. We did that song, and we had a gal playing for us, Gina DeLuca. Do you know her?
I've heard of her.
She's a local musician. She's excellent. And she did some variations of some of those songs, and I think Hound Dog was one of them. And people can go on the YouTube channel Wolf Tunes and actually see me riding in the dog cart with the dogs. We didn't have the WooFAxx back then, so she was just playing in a regular. That'd be hard to play that anyway, but she was playing a regular acoustic guitar, and she did Hound Dog.
Well, the thing is, the cool thing about your battery packs,
we could
you
power.
you can get some of these smaller amps and get them on.
And we flirted with that idea.
Well, or like that little battery-powered amp that my daughter has. I mean,
Right. So they put them on belt buckles these days. Actually, they've got really cool. The latest, trick acoustic gear that you got to get is a special little device that they put on a lot of acoustic guitars. It plugs into a pickup jack, but you put it inside your guitar and attaches to it with a magnet, and then it makes your guitar without an amp. Makes your guitar sound like it has delay, it has chorus, it has reverb, and it sounds phenomenal. I don't have one yet, but I have to get one.
That's incredible.
But really sounds cool.
Could you attach that to a banjo?
You probably could. You
Give
need
reverb
a pickup jack. I'm sure you could do some funky things with that. But it just lends itself a little bit more to a guitar. So I should check that out soon. But yeah. All sorts of cool little portable devices that you can.
Today's technology is incredible.
It's a good thing.
And that's like the dog bikes with electric. It's technology, and a lot of this battery power is what's driving a lot of the technology with electric cars, electric ATVs I use for the dogs, motorcycles. And this was one of the first electric motorcycles, and I think everybody can see at least the front wheel here. So this Andrew's sitting in front of what's an electric motorcycle, and it actually was one of the first ones made by a company called Zero. And I used to take it on the farm and free range with the dogs, and I have a 3-wheel motorcycle. People might have seen me on a trike. It's called a Can-Am. But I'm not well versed on a 2-wheel, but this thing was a lot of fun. I did actually really well with it, and the dogs enjoyed it. Eventually, the battery went bad on it, and at the time, the battery technology was still so fresh that a new battery costs as much as the motorcycle, and I didn't want to replace it, so I retired it to the WoofDen, the studio here. And I went to get one and said, they got to be cheaper now. It's expensive for that battery. You can buy a whole new motorcycle for like half of what I paid for this. That comes with a new battery, and the new batteries are a lot less money. It's this technology that's evolving with lithium batteries. Real quick story we had. So we use, obviously, I was one of the first ones in the area at least doing electric bikes with these lithium batteries. And they were semi-homemade where I was getting them from. The guy was a professional building them, bike store, but it was still, I think he was an engineer beyond a bike store even, and they were running great for me. Well, they started evolving a little more, and we had a bike. We wanted to adapt one of the batteries, and these batteries were like $1,400 back then, and we wanted to adapt one of our electric batteries. It was still on the cusp of being new technology. We were going out on a midnight, what I call the midnight mushing runs, where we go out at night in the summer for the dogs. It's too hot during the day. The nighttime's cooler. We're going on the C&O. And Chris, we call him Chris B, one of my main guys. He's a master electrician, so he knows all about electronics, and he loves tinkering with stuff. He's really good. He's incredible. So he made this battery adapt to a bike he was riding, and we were loading it on the truck in front of my house, and the thing caught on fire. Now, and a lithium fire is super dangerous because if you put water on it, you just ignite it further. So there's special fire extinguishers they have. Well, we didn't have anything available. This is on one of our videos. This is out on the roadway. I wouldn't have anything like it near the dogs. I knew we were playing with a potential hazard. And they're just taking dirt. My wife's like, I'm going to call the fire department. And the guys they're too proud to have that. Like, we'll get it out. They're digging up half my yard to smother the fire. That's the only way to put a lithium battery. Oh my God! So luckily, no damage done.
That's why the planes, like the FAA, has changed a lot of the laptop stuff, right? Because that catches on fire in the passenger crew cabin, you're in trouble.
It happened too, I believe, to Boeing a few times to some of these Boeing jets that they were using some of these lithium-powered batteries, lithium technology, and they had fires in some of the jets. Real quickly, another incident we had, I use RC cars sometimes to tie flags to so the dogs can chase them, almost like to go for their prey drive. And we using the electric car, everything was good. They're called RC, radio controlled. And they've been around for years. I think they're developing them with lithium batteries now. So Chris was charging at his house. Crazy, it burnt his whole countertop up. He didn't do anything wrong. He followed instructions, but you have to be careful. And again, I'm going back probably 5-10 years ago at least. So the technology hadn't fully evolved. But you do have to be careful charging whatever they are, camera batteries, whatever.
Yeah.
And some of them, I believe, aren't regulated as well when you get them from wherever they come from. They say, and I don't know if this is true, that the Chinese-built lithium batteries can't touch the American batteries. They just haven't mastered that production yet. I don't know if that's still true, but
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, but it's pretty interesting.
But that does, like, I used to have, trail bikes, the two strokes, and they were so loud, and like, I bet that's pretty
It's
quiet.
quiet. I mean, you don't hear nothing, but that's
awesome.
the coolness
Do
about
they race
electric.
these things?
Yeah, they do race them, and there are
Yeah.
guys doing all kinds of tricks with them now, and all kinds of pretty aggressive riding.
Can they get pretty lightweight, or?
They're still, from what I understand, I mean, the lithium's a lot lighter than like a lead acid battery, of course, but they're still, I guess they're still pretty heavy.
Okay.
Still.
Interesting.
I got somebody who wants to make a request. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Michael said.
Diane says she's loving the pics and the videos, and she wants to know if you could do Werewolves of London.
Oh, Helen. Warren Zevon. Is that who it was?
That's Warren Zevon, yeah. There you go.
I don't know the words.
Like I saw a werewolf walking late last night.
Saw a
Little old lady.
Yeah.
Last night.
Little old lady.
Oh, the werewolf of London.
Yeah.
Hair was
Perfect.
Werewolves of London. Werewolves in London. Yeah, so I don't know any more of the lyrics. We should just like get the lyrics from the internet.
That's a tough one. I requested that once at Howl at the Moon, and they just ignored my request. They were like,
We had I remember like kind of related that I saw a Warren Zevon show one time at the Old Bayou down in DC.
Wow.
And he was like kind of on his he was going through some cancer treatment. I think unfortunately he was still drinking a lot at that point, so he was just kind of a mess. But it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and he was scheduled to come on, by about 10, and they, for whatever reason, couldn't get him on stage, but they said he's gonna play. If you got your tickets, don't worry, come out. And they came out at like 11:30. He's gonna
playing?
be here. He's gonna play, and then became 12:30, and like he's still. If you want to stick around, if you can, and the place was packed. Nobody's leaving,
Really?
and we ended up like he didn't come on until 2:30, but he came on.
wow.
Did a whole set, and he was great.
Wow.
That was like it was a really cool show. Warren Zevon at 2:30 in the morning on like a Wednesday morning. It was that was a really cool.
Wow.
So Tony, where are you playing next?
So it's kind of interesting. I play in a band called Edgar Allan and the Po' Boys, and we have a big senior center tour, the spring tour that's coming up. So we're actually getting a group together, and we're going to I think 3 senior centers all over the northern Baltimore area. So we're going to be playing at a number of different places there. I think like a live gig. I think we actually have. Where are we playing that people can see us? We have a party Friday, I think, with what is this? Is that a pub? No, that's with the. I think that's with the Ravens GM. We're kind of excited about
Really?
that. Yeah. So
The new GM.
Eric DaCosta.
Yeah.
Now with the Po' Boys, you basically take Edgar Allan poetry and put it.
Yeah. We've been doing a play on that. I mean, it was kind of interesting when somebody came to me and wanted to do a gig at a certain time that like I'm in 3 or 4 other bands and I couldn't get one of them to play the slot. You know,
Really?
like I've got to be able to get a band. You know, so they said just come up with a name and we'll sign you up. So I just looked through a couple of threads on Banjo Hangout, and somebody said, yeah, if I had a band name, I'd call them Hager and the Po' Boys, and I thought that's great. So I'll use that, and we started doing
You didn't have
gigs.
to pay any royalties for that, did you?
No.
Guy doesn't know yet.
I didn't know. I told the guy about it. I said, we did a couple of videos, you know. I've got like a couple of videos online. You can check them out. We spent like a lot of time putting one together just on the famous Raven poem. But we have a song called Nevermore. That's pretty banjo and mandolin intensive, but there's a lot
wouldn't translate to the guitar.
wouldn't really translate to this.
We should have to bring the banjo next time.
Next time. But we do some of the Poe pieces, and then we just we make plays on the fact that Edgar's been around for a long time, and he actually would start banging on like drums and bongos in his chambers while he was writing poetry, and eventually he strung up some things and he ended up inventing the modern 5-string banjo, and he would play that. And,
well, that's the mythology.
And, it's part of the band. And then we invented this music that later, in the early 1900s was pirated by guys like Bill Monroe and Flatt and Scruggs, and they kind of took our entire record catalog and burned it, and all traces of it, and they kind of sort of commandeered it as their own and called it bluegrass music, when 100 years before it was always called po' boy music. So that's that's
nice.
kind of the stories behind the po' boys. But we play a lot of places. We'll play the 8x10. We've played a lot of parties and other venues around town, and those guys are a lot of fun to play with. Just it's basic. We do a lot of popular songs with bluegrass instrumentation, and then we do a couple of poems that we've converted into songs.
Oh, that's interesting.
I get a kick out of that. And the nice thing about it is it's kind of a band where it's somewhat flexible in that if I'm available to play it, we're going to do the gig. I might have to dig up a couple of musicians, but Edgar Allan and the Po' Boys will be able to play your event. So
how often do you play a month, you think?
So I probably play 2 or 3 times a month with different bands. Right now I'm probably in like 5 or 6 bands. And most of that is the Porch Setters and Edgar Allan and the Po' Boys, but there's some other bands. I play in a band called Tres Friends Mucho.
And they're fun.
They're kind of pretty racy, So it's kind of like performance art. Our lead singer is just very very sharp and extremely funny. And when we get up on stage, a lot of weird things have happened.
What are some song titles from Tres Friends Mucho?
I don't know if it's okay to say.
Is it Facebook appropriate?
We're on Facebook Live. As long as you don't show like nudity, I think we're okay.
Yeah, so we've got like Tick on My Taint. We've got I'd like to have a threesome with you. Just a lot of different things. And again, it's something that you have to see. It's tough to explain it. We've got some videos. There's a playlist of Tres Friends Mucho song that I'd encourage you to check out if you're at all interested. But,
is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
What's it under?
If you look up Tres Friends Mucho, how do you spell that? So we spell it wrong, but it should be like the Spanish, but it's really TRACE, Trace Friends Mucho.
Okay, cool.
I like to spell.
And a lot of these, if you go to you have a YouTube channel, like Tony Bonta is a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I'll have a playlist of Trace Friends Mucho tunes, a playlist of Porch Setters tunes, a playlist of Edgar Allan tunes.
Yeah, and then some of those I was talking about earlier, like some of those grunge songs that you did with bluegrass or whatever are on there.
Yeah.
Tony
Bonta, Bonta.
Yeah, Bonta. Oh. And so there's a bunch of different
on YouTube
playlists on. Yeah. So. I've got like a page with. I try to organize it by the different bands. So there's good clips in there. And it's all different stuff. Like Tres Friends Mucho is very funny and offensive. Some of the more traditional acts that I play with are nowhere near like that, and just doing traditional bluegrass tunes.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're running the gamut.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. I mean I enjoy playing, and if somebody is interested in playing with me, it's rare that I turn them down. So.
Cool.
So we'll have you play one more song before we go out, but I just want to make sure we plug your the new Porch Setters Union CD one more time. You said it's on iTunes. It's called Union. And it's also available, like you say, CD Baby?
CD Baby, yep. And
Okay.
we have a website too. If you, unfortunately, we use one of the free Wix site pages, yeah. So it's not
It's not easy to remember.
porchsettersunion.com, but if you search for Porch Setters Union, you'll find our website, and we've got merchandise for sale there. We've got T-shirts and CDs. If you really want to get your hands on a physical CD to look at, it's got some nice artwork.
Oh yeah, it does. Abraham Lincoln on the front there.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
The goat.
Yep. So
why don't you play us a song to take us out, Tony, and then we'll sign off after you.
all right. Any more requests, or are we just?
Any more requests or questions, Tricia?
No, I don't have anything here. Why don't you play us one of your favorites?
Gosh, I'll just play a cover.
Oasis.
Yeah.
Today was gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. But I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street, the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you heard it all before, but you never really had it down. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights you need is there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. So maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. I said, baby, you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall.
All right.
All right.
Well, this has been the WoofDen. We're here with Tony Bonta. I'm Andrew Hager.
I'm Bill WoofDriver Helman, and loved having everybody here. Tony, thank you very much.
Sure, thanks.
It's a lot of
Thanks for having
fun.
me. It was fun.
Interesting conversation.
We'll have to have you back.
Yes. Hopefully we'll have you back soon.
I'll bring a banjo. Next time. There you go. I'll see if I can build a husky flavored banjo.
I would love that. By the way, just if you just catching the tail end here, go back. I encourage you to watch this. It'll be posted to Facebook as soon as we're done. Tony's playing the WooFAxx, which is a guitar built for the WoofDriver, me, and for all the wonderful musicians that have graced the WoofDriver world. He's going to hold. It comes in a bunch of different, well, we've made them in a bunch of different colors, honoring different dogs. They're all individually named. And there's about 6 of them floating around now.
Which one is this, by the way? Which name?
Well, that's Princess, and that one I can't remember. I think the guitar maker made it for honored his dog. Does it say a name on that one?
Back.
It looks
Czar,
like
this is
Kevin.
Czar.
That's Czar.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my dog. And Czar is white like Princess, but he says we got too many white dogs. We got to make some different colors here. Make it a little flavorful. But we actually that is Czar. So sorry, Czar, if you're listening to me. That was one of my first Huskies, by the way.
Cool.
But yeah,
that
and
farm upstate gets Facebook. He's fine.
He's watching us now. The eyes do light up. We didn't have the battery tonight, but hopefully we'll have that for you next time. We do one of our music WoofDen broadcasts, and it's been awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Remember, any questions, comments, If you want to talk to Sammy here, just put it all in the comments section. And we thank you for being here. This is WoofDriver signing off.